Hello, mate.
It's not recording. Oh, it is. No, it's yeah. All right.
Oh, see, now I've told you about my gag. When I actually do it properly,
the fun's over. The fun's over. I can see Zencast. All right, we're 15 seconds in. God, already. Here we go, 20. Right, so today was long overdue. Richard Denney from St Lukes, he of the SHN NHS Stay Home Now, Save Lives. What a moment from last year. Obviously, Rich has done shitloads of great billboards. I knew he'd done a lot, but then, through the last 48 hours, I was like, wow, I'd forgotten all about...
I worked with them years ago. Yeah. And his team, his creative directors, they were fantastic.
The microloan stuff, right?
Yeah. When he was at the RKW.
Mate, I didn't know you had it in you. You know what I mean? You're quite good, aren't you, Grand Visual?
Yeah, we try. In fact, we don't try. It just comes naturally.
No, it's good. And then also he's... he did lots of stuff at Mullen, which my old stomping ground. Some great work on Morrisons, actually, which you wouldn't sort of imagine to have great work on. But the posters there were wonderful, really funny, playful stuff. And then obviously, like we said, all the microloan stuff. And then there was British Heart Foundation. There seems a lot.
We've got loads.
Yeah,
we've got loads to get through today.
Yeah,
we're going to have
crack the whip.
A bumper. Bumper episode.
Yeah. Well, look, let's see. Should I go and get him, or do you want to get him?
Dialing in.
Right. Okay, Rich. Well, welcome to Behind the Billboard, mate. Thanks for coming on.
Hello.
Yeah, welcome, Rich.
Thanks very much for having me.
So, to give you your full name, Richard Denney, ECD of St Lukes, and creator of many brilliant billboards, including possibly the most famous of recent times, the SHN Stay Home Now work for NHS, which we love here on the show. We're going to talk about that a lot later. But mate, how are you today? How are you feeling?
I'm good. I was gutted that actually I wasn't going to get to see you two for real, because I was like, oh, that's going to be a trip back into London. That was actually a trip planned into London, just to sort of get, at the beginning I was like, oh, it's wicked not having to get on a train. But actually I'm desperately sort of missing lots and lots of things now. So that was one of them, but I'm good. We're really, really busy. We've got lots of exciting things and we're already pitching. So, can't complain. No,
it looks good, mate. We, obviously on social and that, we've been in touch, certainly on email, but, the work's looking good, and the pitch winning and stuff. It's a nice feeling. You're sort of on a roll there a bit now, right?
Yeah, it's taken a bit of time, but I think what's brilliant about is where I am now is just the energy and commitment and dedication from everyone. There's no, everyone's got their sleeves rolled up. We're all getting stuck in. We're all getting behind it, and we're all in. And the actual thing is we're all enjoying doing it. It was tough last year, but we're enjoying it. And I think the culture, although we're not in a room together, it's funny, but that hasn't disappeared, even being on Zoom calls. And I think that's what's keeping us all a bit going. We're all desperate to see each other, but it's a wonderful culture and a spirit. And we're getting some really, more exciting clients joining, and we've got some great things coming up that I can't wait to share as well. And so it's brilliant. It's good times.
It's good, mate.
As Rich, we've been waiting to get you on for so long. We've talked about SHN quite a lot last year. It was almost felt like it was on every episode, because we were kind of that I think there wasn't much great work because there wasn't much work out in the public space on outdoor last year. So the stuff that we did talk about, we talked about a lot because it was just so good. We've been desperate to get you on, and I'm glad that we finally made it, albeit remotely for now.
Oh, thank you. I feel sort of. Look, for me, I'm chuffed with what work I've done to date. But when I look at the people that have been on and the posters that they've done, that I've literally sort of my chin's dropped, and things that have inspired me as a youngster, I'm like, crikey, I feel sort of a bit. I don't know. SHN, it's great, but I feel a bit like, oh, blimey, sitting with these class of sort of legends is like on another level, but it's nice to do.
You're worthy, mate. It's well worthy.
Thank you.
So, Dan, go for it, mate.
Yeah, we're going to talk about lots of your billboard work today. Lots of the different shapes and sizes of billboards, whether it's a kind of something printed, something digital, interactive. We've got a raft of things to talk about, from Morrisons to microloans, and the British Heart Foundation stuff, and some NSPCC, Harvey Nicks, Carlsberg, and then of course the SHN stuff that we've talked about. But before we get into your body of work, have you seen, what have you seen lately, either on your social or in person out in the countryside, that stuff that that's really got your creative juices flowing in the outdoor space? So kind of the work that you've seen that you really love.
I tell you what, it's sad really, because where I am, there isn't many billboards. So it's basically been the power of sort of social media, which is an interesting sort of thing in itself. And I think you've discussed this in the past about, how can outdoor have even more of a narrative to get shared and eyeballs. But the one piece of work that has come out recently that I absolutely love is the Black Plaque project.
Yeah, great.
I thought that was absolutely incredible, not just because of, the posters are brilliant in their craft, the writing, the art direction, but actually the idea in itself, the whole idea of the Black Plaque project. I think is it Nubian Jack community, but the fact that they probably wouldn't have had huge amounts of media space, so they had to be really, having a compelling idea enough to get social media coverage and PR. And they've absolutely done that. And it's actually really intriguing. I love it when I see a new one come up and I want to find out a bit more information. But for me, the writing and everything, but the idea in itself is bloody brilliant. It's one of those I wish I'd done. It's Havas, I think.
It's from it's Vicky and the guys at Havas, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
I'm pleased you brought that up. That's something that Dan and I haven't talked about, but it's a good, that's a really nice one to talk about.
The writing is real. The lines, and you don't. It's that kind of quality line that you go, proper wordsmith. And then great photography, and it's a lesson. Everything's a lesson in itself as well. So for me, that's one of late that I absolutely love. I really liked. I really loved. I've always been a massive fan of the Listen Like You Used To campaign. But that's last year. Why I love that. But of late, I think that's the one for me that I got all a bit excited about.
And then anything internally at St Luke's that we've got to look forward to? Is there anything you can tell us that will work in the outdoor space that we're about to get excited about?
Yeah, we've got a couple of things coming up. We've got a brilliant campaign coming up for KP, and then we won Which towards the end of last year, and we've been doing some good things with Which. So we've got some good work to come out that I'm looking forward to sharing.
Good. We can't wait to see it. I mean, I think as we were putting together the body of work with you to talk about today, and the stuff that obviously that we want to talk about, and you going through your book of stuff that you've got, I think it's quite clear to see that you've got a bit of a passion for outdoor. And I think you just mentioned that it was going back through your work. There's loads of work that you'd forgotten, and this had reminded you of some of the work that you'd done in the outdoor space. Would you say that outdoors are a favourite medium of yours? Is it a kind of a little bit of a, when you see something like that come up on a brief, is it a bit of a passion for you?
It absolutely is. I mean, I don't think it's an easy format to do. I think it comes with its challenges. I think the biggest challenge is convincing your client that you don't need to fill it with lots of things, lots of information. And I think, I've always loved the medium because, one, it's a great way of showing off, words, and also art direction and photography and illustration. If I think about sort of like flyers from when I was at college, I used to collect rave flyers. I really like the graphic sort of nature of them and what they said to me about going to a club or something like that. And I used to collect scrapbooks of them.
Great.
As I started out, and I love that kind of posters for nightclubs and bands and album covers. And I think for me, they're quite like, when they're done right, they can be quite like that. It's funny. I found an old sketchbook when I was sort of coming towards my end of my college years, and I didn't study advertising. I studied design and communication, and I got a couple of posters in there that I'd cut out that I loved, and one was Sampras Grenade, the Nike poster which is genius.
Silburn, isn't it? Silburn and Tiger.
Silburn and Tiger. And then the other one was Mark and Roberts, Cages Save Lives.
Oh, yeah.
And it's interesting, I pulled those two out because they're very, very simple. You know, there's no car in that Volvo ad. Yeah. You know, and there's a bit of a tennis player, but there's no trainers, is there? But it's so iconic, that grenade up in the air and that art direction. And I love that. I think that Nike campaign, I mean, that was part of, wasn't it? It was, you shared it, didn't you? I think you shared it yesterday, the Isaac Newton and Jordan one. That whole campaign, the art direction. Behind every great goalkeeper, there's a ball from Ian Wright. 66 was a great year for English football, and I think you covered this before. But that sort of graphics, you know, at the time when I was at college, it was like Face magazine, and you know, the photography and the way that they did that. You know, I was like, oh my god. But if I look at what I was pulling out, they were quite simple and graphic in themselves. You know,
and. I mean, we've had a few different explanations of kind of what the perfect billboard is, but I think those ones that you're talking about, if you think about, you know, the simplicity of pulling out a single frame from a film, you wouldn't necessarily get the full story. But I think the joy of those single frame billboards is that you're getting so much of the story from in a single frame, and whether that's just a piece of copy or a smart image or some narrative for you to follow and fill in the gaps yourself. You know, all of those pieces that you've mentioned have that.
Smirnoff did that wonderfully, didn't it? Smirnoff did that wonderfully years ago, didn't it?
Yeah, through the. I mean, back to that for a second. I remember. I don't know if you've listened to them all of the podcast, but Tim Riley came on and he called a poster a visual shout, which Dan and I loved.
Yeah, I love that.
But I love that you brought those up. Sorry, we're going slightly off the track as usual. But I was thinking there, listening to what you're saying, those Nike billboards, they really endure. And I'm trying to work out, I don't want to sound like an old fart, you know, because they were a while ago, but they were just so good. They're so beautifully art directed and everything about them. We had Mark on, Mark Denton, who, you know, went into great depth about them. We're going to have Tiger coming up, so we're going to cover it from many angles.
Wow.
We've also got Malcolm Venville coming on for the photography. So it's great to hear, you know, different sides to them. But they really have lasted the test, haven't they, of time, those posters.
It's quite funny, and you brought it up just as we were kind of engaged in some social chatter with Fur. He posted that Isaac Newton and Jordan poster yesterday talking about ROI, and could you still count ROI given the fact that it's such an iconic poster, and he's posting it on social media.
That's
interesting, isn't it?
Even though it came out at a time before social media existed, could you still count the ROI as now because more eyeballs are seeing it? That's quite funny.
Yeah,
but you could run them now, and they would still be as fresh as they was.
And you wouldn't have to put excuse my French, a bloody hashtag or a website or a store. You know, they were just pure. And I remember Mark talking about them, and he said, you know, London. Simons Palmer London was a little outpost, really, and they just got little sniffs of briefs. And then when they got them, you know, Mark's like he's a dog with a bone, and he just went at them. And after a while, I think the Americans, you know, Nike client just gave them more and more to the point where, you know, they were just smashing it, TV as well, and everything.
It's the same like Wrangler, wasn't it? Wrangler, they did the same with Wrangler. They actually made their advertising. It was originals. You know, it was the lifestyle, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think,
you're right.
You know,
you're absolutely right. I mean, Mark and Chris, they, you know, we should get Chris on as well. But they were just of a different kind, those two.
So while we're feeling nostalgic, I've got one more little thing to go back in time on. So you talked about your time at college. Where did you study, Rich? Where were you?
I studied at the Kent Institute of Art and Design in Maidstone. So
really
it was graphic design. I didn't have any advertising tutors. I had really cool tutors from like London College of Printing and places like that who actually all fucking hated advertising. They all hated advertising. But the one thing that they said, I was into photography, and I was into design, but not like some of my mates that I think they ended up going off to brilliant design companies and like the Neville Brodys and places like that. But because I didn't have that discipline, really. I had ideas, but I didn't have that discipline to be able to sit there. Do you know what I mean?
But advertising was always there for you.
I think so, but I didn't go, oh, I want to do advertising. I was coming towards the end of my degree, and I loved all sorts of, I loved, like as I said, photography and illustration and design and everything. And I didn't really know what I was going to do. And my tutor, who I was really close to, and he saw something in us, I think, with regards to ideas, said, look, do you know what? I think you'd be really good at advertising. So let me put you in contact with some guys that you studied here, and it was Rob Porteous, who's a mate.
Oh, I know Rob.
Yeah, top boy, and Madge, who's no longer with us, bless her. And he said, go and see them, and then get them to help you and stuff like that. And I did that, and they said, well, you're going to need to do this. So I was getting trips up to London, and they were sort of showing us what I'd need to do. They almost become like tutors, if you like, because I didn't have advertising. I think we had one class. Ad class, and I loved it. And then he disappeared. Not as in went missing, but and so I did that, and at the same time, my tutor then said, my brother-in-law works below the line, but he doesn't want to work below the line. He wants to work above the line. He wants to work in advertising and make TV ads and stuff. Why don't you two team up? You'd be great together. And we met up, and he was a bit older than me, and so we did, and we put a book. We did this CV that was clever. It was. It was badly art directed, I will say, but it had an idea in it, and it was a 2 CV, and we got Citroen 2 CVs, metal ones. We cut them in half. We've cut them in half. It was real punny. We cut them in half, and we sent it out to everyone, and we sent it to David Abbott and everyone, and it said, and you had to send this postcard back with a traffic light green and then a red one, and we got a few back. We got them back from Abbott and everyone.
Nice.
And then they saw the work, and we never got to see David, but we went to see these places, and they went, oh, your book's not very good, though. so that we were going away and working. And then Rob said, look, keep going, and then I'll introduce you to Mike Cousins and Y&R and everything. And we did. And then they went, we'll get you a placement. And then I got a placement, and I never left.
Wow.
So I have to thank them for that. But that drive and energy to sort of get under the roof. And I think my training started the day that I walked through the door. And then I learned training for every place that I've been with, every writer and art director, and watched in more awe. I didn't have a partner that I got taught and educated with. I kind of found my way around it, but I had something, I suppose, with regards to that. If I go back to that poster, that visual element,
Yeah. Who did you so? Because I obviously know you, Rich, from years, but we'll come to Saatchi's in a minute, but because when you were with Davey Henderson,
that's right, yeah.
But when did you and Davey's paths cross? So you started at Y&R.
Oh yeah, so I was at Y&R, and I in my first year, someone said, "Look, you want to try and make yourself some noise." So I've always had this proactive mentality.
Yeah, great.
And he said, if you want to do it, don't forget. The briefs were going to the Neaters and Pauls, and don't forget there was Power is Nothing Without Control had just come out, and there was all this, that, and the other. And you were training amongst, we had Sugar Puffs and stuff. I was writing TV quite quickly, right? I'm desperate to sort of do posters. There was a brilliant poster campaign, and a few of the creatives did them for Colgate, and they had really iconic red backgrounds. And I think we did one which was, I think my first poster was Go Further Stripes. It wasn't nowhere near. It was weak in comparison to the print campaign that was doing it, but I was doing some of that stuff with Dave, and then I come up with this thought for a charity for St Mungo's with a homeless man, and we won a gold line in our first year, and
wow,
we did quite well with that, and it was but it was a proactive piece of work, and it got media attention. We had journalists from Canada come over and stuff because they loved the idea of this homeless man sitting outside, and then he was in your screen. And then what happened was, I think not that long after, funny enough, my partner was a mad keen fisherman like me, but he wanted to move to Canada to carry on fishing. So he emigrated. So he's a copywriter in Canada now.
What's his name?
Dave West. So we did that, and then Dave West, from one Dave to another.
How
and at
funny.
the same time, Dave was working with Sam, and he was thinking about having a change. He said, that's right. And he said, I'd love to work with Rich, and we teamed up, and then we spent 18 years together.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. So you got let's get into Saatchi's, because I mean obviously I knew you and Dave. Dave was Scholes's best man, and I knew you through that, and there's all the kind of ad mafia. But then it's quite funny because you came to Saatchi's when I think Tony Grange was there, and me and Ads were about to leave. And I was always a bit gutted by that because I thought, we spend some time with you two. But I remember, you did an incredible amount of work. The Carlsberg Old Lions TV spot. I know this is a Billboard podcast, so we won't go into it, sadly. But that's one of my favourite ads of all time. It's just so bloody good, mate.
You.
But on the Billboard front, you also smashed it for Carlsberg with these wall charts, which really is the first one we really wanted to dig into and ask you about. Could you explain sort of what the idea was and how you came to it? The crackers.
Again, we'd come into, and we were running Carlsberg, so we'd done Old Lions, and the client believed in us and they trusted us. But our thing was, what can we give them? Proactive work. Let's share extra stuff with them. See if they get in for stuff. And that year, The Guardian were doing a monthly. They were doing a series of wall charts, and they were using a wonderful illustrator.
Yes.
And we were getting these wall charts, and I went, "There's an idea in this." Carlsberg, and before it was a bit generic. Carlsberg don't do, because they still follow the formula that we set up. It was all a bit generic before we got hold of it. No, seriously, what if Carlsberg did do the best pub team?
Right.
Or what if, it's like Carlsberg years later. What if Carlsberg did billboards and they put pint, tats on them?
Exactly.
So we started that ball rolling of actually go bigger with it, really make some noise with it. So we said, what if Carlsberg did wall charts? So we did a series of 3 wall charts, and we got Satellite Studios, which I think was Keith's contact, and he went, we got an artist that does that style, and we did a series of 3 wall charts. And we said to Kate, look, we're going to have to invest in a bit of this, and the client to get the client behind it. She went, absolutely, because Tony had left them. And we said, but they've got to run, and we want to make this happen for real. So we went to the client, and they went, I love them. And they said, okay, let's get them out there, and and we run them in the private eye. So they were a fold out. I've still got sets of them upstairs. I've kept loads of them. I've got to frame them one day.
Nice.
And we run them in the private eye. So they were a free pull out, but they were in essence sea fish, which were all different styles of battered fish, from fish fingers to a captain's wheel. And it was country animals, but they were all sausages. And then there was birds of Britain, but they were all pies. And it was all food that went with a beer, wasn't it? If Carlsberg don't do wall charts, but if they did, And they were really well received. And the spirit of them was just a bit playful, but a bit Carlsberg. But that started that attitude from the TV, but print and that could do that well. Rob Porteous and Dave did a brilliant one with banknotes and got some money off the client. I think it was a few grand, put little stickers on them. Carlsberg don't do litter, and then went out there and just started chucking money on the streets. When you pick these banknotes up, there was little speech bubbles, So we started that mentality of what can you do that actually really makes Carlsberg separate from everything else.
Do you remember where these posters went, Rich?
On the wall charts,
they
were literally folded up and put into private eye magazines and then handed out.
Nice. So people could take them out and.
So when they got their magazine, these dropped out and it had the Carlsberg wall chart in it.
Nice.
So we did a series of them.
Really good. There's also there's also a campaign for NSPCC at Saatchi and Saatchi featuring the fake happy masks. Should we talk about that one a bit?
Yeah, I mean, by no means is this. I don't, I mean, Hugh would tell you. I mean, the power of work that was coming out of Saatchi's for NSPCC was like unbelievable. If you think about cartoon, and you think about even the mannequin, and it was like when you got that brief, everyone wanted to work on that brief. And this campaign was quite poignant because it was going to be NSPCC's first partnership with Childline. So we got to meet the client, and then we got to meet some care workers, and then interviewed people to understand what it was like, and that idea about hiding. We got that thought about the mask, hiding behind, you're going to school or you're with your mates, you're hiding, you're putting on a false face. And that was because we did a bit of research into it and we were chatting to people. It's really quite upsetting and disturbing. So we thought, can we bring that to life? So we, obviously they don't have huge budgets, so you're kind of leaning on people to help as well to make these things happen. So Danny Kleiman said he was up for it and he wanted to take part. So he shot the film for us. And interestingly, I think it was you, Hugh, wasn't it, that did the Frank shot all your stills for you for. Oh,
that's right. Yeah, the sex shop. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, but you used a director to do your stills, which was interesting, and I remember that because I thought, I like that. What if So we went to Danny to shoot the film, but said we want to do the whole campaign. Would you shoot the print as well? And he was like, well, I don't really do that, but I can get a photographer and I'll direct it. We went, that's brilliant. Yeah. So Danny was involved in the whole campaign, and it's interesting now, isn't it? Yeah. 25 years later or 20 years later, that you've got to make sure you've got a still side to a moving image and vice versa. Yeah. But that was inspired by Hugh and getting a director to do the stills and stuff like that. And I thought, well,
I was looking at those. There's a brilliant campaign, mate. I was looking at it last night and this morning. It's quite disturbing in a very good way.
Yeah.
And how did you do the masks out of interest? Was it research? Did you actually create them? I was looking at them.
No, they're made. They're made. We approached. I think someone approached. Yeah, I think someone approached Ron Muick at first.
Oh, yeah.
And Mark Denton's best mates with Ron, isn't he? I think someone approached, but he was doing something, so he couldn't get involved. But if I remember rightly, and I wouldn't want to get anything wrong, so I think we got put in contact with a studio called Asylum, who build all these props for like movies and everything.
Yeah.
And they were like, this is so powerful. We will do this. We would love to take part. And these are actually made. I don't know where they are now. They are the darkest thing you've ever seen when you see them for real. Yeah. But they had the elastic on them, and they're actually real children's faces. So we cast the children, and they were made for real with each hair put in them. So there was no retouching.
They're latex models, are they?
Yeah, they're latex models. We ended up with a big exhibition where we got all. It was held at Sarchi's, where we got charity partners in and trustees and people that donate. And we did an evening where they were in cases and the work was up and the film and everything. And that raised money as well. But
they're kind of they're kind of filmic, aren't they? They're just so. I mean, there's a thing about masks. I remember I did a campaign of Adam at J Dubs, and we got a mask maker in it. And the minute you get into masks, it's mental because there's so much out there and it's so creepy. Just the whole world of masks. You like that thing, you just get into funny little worlds in advertising and you go, right, I'm going to sink myself into mask making. And it's incredible, isn't it? How you discover stuff and people who do this stuff. And it's brilliant.
And the words, the words you've used on the poster are so powerful, even as a complete line and in isolation, as you don't have to hide it anymore, is kind of your key statement. It's really stands to the idea of a mask and putting on a brave face and putting on your happy face, all that kind of stuff. I think it's a very, very smart idea for a poster, and you get it straight away.
Yeah,
there's an interesting tension with them though as well. Is that the eyes are there, and actually, as a mask, the eyes shouldn't be there.
Yeah,
they should be cut out. But I think, if I remember rightly, when we did that and looked at them like that, they went dark, but they didn't work. You needed to see the eyes, so we left the eyes on.
But there's something quite interesting about the eyes on a mask, isn't there? Because you're so used to seeing eyes movement, and there's almost something quite nice about the weird, deathly stare of the mask eyes that you've got in this shot. I think they feel fake, which is good. I think they feel like the extra light glint is helping the fakeness of the eyes, and actually that is hiding something, and I think that's part of the story.
Yeah. They're kind of timeless, aren't they? Very sadly, you could be running these tomorrow. They'd be absolutely bang on, for calling out Instagram, social media, all that bullshit. people do, saying everything's fine. Rich, sorry, I cut out earlier. I wasn't blanking you. I went unusually quiet.
Oh no,
for me.
sorry.
So Dan did a sterling job of talking.
Yeah, we're finished now. Here we did the whole lot. We did.
Yeah, you're both in the pub, aren't you? Rich, we're going to take it up a notch. I feel, and go to DDB. So you had a great tenure at Saatchi's. Obviously, much great work. That was. We'll try and put it on the website and the social, but there's a great Prius ad you shared with me, which was a mock Economist ad. I love that, and it was a one-off, so we don't want to.
Yeah, we were creative directors on that. That was you and I think that was a really clever idea. That was you and Dan, I think. Yeah, so
we'll try and feature some of the one-offs as well, because you've done so much work, but I wanted to focus as much as we could on sort of campaigns. And so at DDB, obviously, more great TV. Your VW Polo with Glazer, and then the brilliant Budweiser stuff with Chris Palmer. Absolutely love that commercial. But we're Billboard people, and thankfully you did quite a few of those. So the one we were going to talk about a bit, we wanted to ask you about, was the Harvey Nichols Vultures. Just first of all, what was it like to work on Harvey Nichols? Because I never got my hands on it, and I know so many people who worked there and did it. Adam and Justin and all the guys at DDB days. Was it a very pressured thing to work on, or was it just really exciting? What was the deal?
It was exciting. That was our first brief when we walked in.
Oh my God!
When we started, it was our first brief, and I'll never forget. Unbelievable with the department, anyway. And, no matter whether you were one of the seniors or one of the juniors there, the competition was absolutely fierce, but also very respectful. Right. And that was and I'll never be, everyone was really friendly. So we were in our office and we were like, someone was like, oh, how are you? We've got the briefing around. I was like, oh, brilliant. We've got to go at Harvey Nichols. And I can't remember who it was, but they went, yeah, mate, you and all of us. Because what happened was, it was such, so basically you got briefed, which was almost like,
kiss of death.
You imagine being on a starting block and then someone's gone, there's a gun for you because it's your brief, but just so you know, in about 5 seconds, another gun's going to go off and the other runners are coming and they're bloody fast. And also they know the formula and they've won gold. So we were like, no pressure. But that's what made it interesting. That's what made you dig deeper, and interestingly, we had this idea which was really, really simple. And I think probably one of them's my favourite out of the three. I think the jacket is probably my favourite because of the body position and sort of like, vultures pecking at it. But I love the analogy of it and the right bright red clothes. Yeah. And we shared that one with Jeremy as one of a few ways in.
Yeah, go on.
The stack of campaigns that Jeremy used to have.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, my God, the things that you the things that were made were always outstanding. And I'm not talking about this campaign; it was good. But when you look at some of those brilliant, like Kung Fu Kittens, or you think, like you say about Justin and Adam's work, and some of the moments where but there were so many of these campaigns. Yeah, many of them. He had a stack of stuff,
Did you do this? Me and Scholesy always did this before we got somewhere. I said, right, let's get ahead of the game when we go, I don't know, to JWT, let's write out a Kit Kat, or before we go to Saatchi's, let's try write. Did you and Davey go, right, before we get there, we'll bang out some Harvey Nicks or some V-Dub before we get there, or did you wait until you arrived?
No, we waited until we arrived. It's interesting. We knew we'd be getting a go at it. Yeah. I mean, our first VW scripts, or first few, Jeremy liked them, but he said, "I tell you what," and he gave us Bernbat's book on Those Wonderful Lads. Oh yeah. He said, "Go away and read that." He said, "You'll get there, but it takes a bit of time to understand a Volkswagen ad." And I learned so much off of him, and it was always about less is more. But also the other thing was, and Saatchi's, you worked there. And the same with Mark and Robert at Rainey Kelly with art directors and art departments. You had incredible designers, you had incredible art departments as well. So that when that campaign got bought, for example, and you had some ideas of who you might think would be the brilliant photographer, your art buyers, they were art direct. They're more than art buyers. They were art directors, if you like, themselves. And they would go, oh, no. You want to use this person. And then you went, oh my God. Yeah. So it wasn't, this is what I love about what we do.
Yeah.
It's not just what we do, but it's the team around you that take it to somewhere else. And that's what I suppose I love at college,
so funny
you
say that, because Birdie's episode will be out hopefully this week, and it's virtually an echo of what you said, and I absolutely follow that. Ads and I would come up with an idea, much like you and Dave, and that was obviously you've got to come up with the idea, but after it, the craft of the type, the photography, the art direction, the look and feel, even down to the media, it's funny because creatives always get their names on stuff and designers, but really there's an army of people making this stuff happen. So
we've talked about that recently, haven't we, Hughes? That the concept of the billboard here is the behind the billboard is about all of the bits of the puzzle to get to the work, and that starts with an idea. It could start with a client, it could start with a piece of insight, it could start with a bit of audience profiling, it could start with a photographer getting his camera out. The point is there are loads of people involved in this, and the idea is maybe a catalyst for all of those bits of the machine to start whirring around, and the unsung heroes of the account people who go and help sell that into a client. Or
everyone's got a responsibility. Absolutely.
Rich, just going back to this, I'm fascinated, right? Because I remember seeing this, and it's sort of it's like all great posters and great work. You just go, that looks simple, vultures, vultures fighting over the sale stuff. So it works on that level brilliantly. But I wanted to ask you, did you and Dave go, right, let's make the clothes red? Or was that a thing when you got chatting to the photographer, or was it later on, or was it the first thing?
That was us. That was me. That was our because I drew those. I've got those. I think I'll see if I can dig them out, but I've kept those scamps. Right. I've got them somewhere. And we kind of drew them to the page. And that came from a bit of Mark Rolfe, really. I remember doing a Land Rover campaign years ago, and and it was with Giles Revell, and it was a brilliant idea, and I left too much to chance as an art director. Right. Okay, and I learned from that. And I remember Mark going, we'll get there, but a bit of advice is make sure obviously you've got to have space to improve things, but make sure you know what in future where things are going on that page, and really dig a bit deeper to it, because you won't ever get in this space again. Yeah. And I learned a lot from that. So trying to work it out, I'm not talking even to the levels of like an Alex where her thing on scissors, and I mean that is just unbelievable, but you'll never get anyone like that creating that style of poster, because my God, it's a mindset that is just genius. But even to curate them and have those thoughts, and then colouring those items red because vultures are picking the blood out of it, and the carcasses and the mood board. So we did do it to that extent. It was just then, how do you give it that Harvey Nichols look and feel with the typography, the studio, because these were real birds, and then positioning. But we worked that out. That was us. Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, it's sort of thing where the more you look at it, you go, because you go, oh yeah, it's like, the vultures, they're on the stuff, and then you go, oh God, that red's working. I'm going, oh right, and then like the jacket, I'm looking at it now, and it does look like it's part of a carcass, and then it's just the way that the jacket's it's dark on the edges, but in the middle it looks a bit more fleshy. Every bit of it looks like, you've considered it, which I love. That what you just said, that art direction thing was great. When Mark talked to us about it when he came on, what are they called? Mike and Jerry, I think. He's saying, geniuses.
And he said, we looked at so much of their Land Rover work. I mean, I think most of the work was theirs. And I sort of said,
exactly.
Yeah, and he was saying, we were asking and saying, how much was worked out by them, how much was the photographer, and he said they would draw stuff perfectly.
Everything.
And it's amazing. It's amazing.
Jerry would draw those layouts over and over again. You'd go into the office, and I think that's what I was around. Don't forget, coming out of that place, it was brilliant. You had Mark and Robert, you had Mike and Jerry, you had Martha and Richard, you had Phil and Graham, you had Pip and Chris, you had lots of, I mean, the posters were insane, from Virgin to Land Rover, and we did a lot of Land Rover press and TV, but we'd nenever got those posts out because you had a go. But Mike and Jerry, oh my God. But the way that he would draw them, and I think I took that onto my next part of my journey, and that was Mark as well. It's sad, really, the shoes one. I think I remember now. We wanted a handbag. I remember it now. We wanted a handbag that was open, almost like a stomach, but that wasn't one of the red. These clothes aren't retouched. You could buy that red dress.
Okay.
You could buy that red jacket. The one that falls foul. The shoes are okay, but imagine that vulture inside the handbag, really pulling out the lining, but we couldn't do it because they didn't have that product. That would have probably made it a bit better, I think.
No, it's always reassuring when people come on going, it's not still irritating me that it's.
the shoe, I like the shoe one. I like the fact that the shoe's just knocked over, so the vulture is looking at that one as well. There are some fun things in there,
but it's a bit cheeky as well, calling them vultures as well, isn't it? You're a pack of vultures.
Yeah,
that's what I love. That's what's brilliant about Harvey Nichols. And the people that are buying stuff there, you could be playful like that and have a laugh,
It was
their whole style of sale messaging was unlike any other brand, right? So you have that.
I remember
when they do have a sale, people do feel that it is like the vultures are circling. It's good.
I remember I talked to when I was at Leo's, I spoke to Justin and Adam about it, and to the outside world, it just looked like, oh, here we go, DDB smashed it out again, another amazing Harvey Nichols campaign. They said it was never it looked like that, but they said it was really, really hard. There was so many barriers you'd have to overcome. I mean, I remember you saying just back there about the briefing and the teams when we were at BB8, so you got like a Lynx or a Levi's brief. It was basically the kiss of death because you would be like burdened with this sort of, the legacy of all the great work, thinking, how are we going to do it? And someone like Sawnby and Chappie or Andy and Roger would just steam in at the last minute, with no weight on their shoulders, going, oh, John, we just did this. We thought we'd just drop it in. Oh my God! And you get killed every time. So well done, you two, for actually delivering.
Time you run.
Time you run, exactly. Right, talking of runs, that's a nice little sync there. We're going to leave DDB, I'm afraid, because we want to get over to Mullen Low. So that's a bit of a change. I was thinking Paddington to Knightsbridge must have been a change, and the culture must have been a huge change. So you went from being, a very, very senior team at DDB, probably the big hitters there, to being ECDs at Mullen. Was that a big thing? Was that you wanted to do that? You wanted to get in there, flex your muscles and run a department? Is that right?
Yeah, it's really interesting because not many people know this, but we were close to going to Abbott Meads.
Right.
And then we changed our mind, and then we were like, we ummed and ahed and everything. And my God, what a place. What a place to go to! What the amount of briefs and opportunities and talent, but there was something didn't feel quite right, and we chose against it. And we were loving what we were doing at DDB. I mean, working with Jeremy in that department and the brands and everything. There was loads of opportunity, but it wasn't But there was no need to move to continue doing that. And I think that's what was one of the things that probably stopped us, if you like. And it was like, well, what the next progression would be to run something or do something. And I remember we were talking to Jeremy about it because we'd literally talked about where we were going to go. And he said, don't ever want to go and run somewhere, wait for it to come to you and all this, that and the other. And and then we got a call saying, look, there's an opportunity to come up to go and join DLKW Low, which was, had been bought by Lowe's. And we were like, well, that sounds interesting. We all knew DLKW, and we met the management team, Richard and Tom and Charlie and, the rest of the guys. And they were a lovely bunch of people with a lovely energy. Then Michael Wall was the global boss of Lowe, and that we loved that because he was ex-Fallon. Yeah. And it was a case of, here's your opportunity to sort of get us, some fame and get us back on the ladder and everything. And so it was a too good an opportunity to miss, really. Lowe as a famous place that had done incredible work. DLKW that had done famous work, but probably not the kind of work that was matching what Lowe would do. So what could we do and add our sort of footprint to that?
Yeah.
And it was a brilliant experience. One at first was like, oh yeah, this is great, and then smack right between the eyes. Pitching teams, keeping everyone. It's tough. It's really, really tough.
And so that was a big cultural shift then for you.
Massively. But what it did do is it allowed us to create a department and take all those learnings from, early days at Y&R, and then Rainy Kelly and Sarches, and then, DDB and culture, taking culture and looking for teams and talent, and how do you build that? And, and then getting, building it not just from a creative point of view, but, who do you plug in with design? Who do you plug in with broadcast and TV? And, then the account management and that sort of side, and planning, who are they plugging in? And so that was a great thing. But also then you're starting to get in front of more clients, aren't you? And so you're doing that. So you've got to rely on the talent around you. And it was a brilliant experience, a tough one. An absolutely tough one.
No, I remember you going there, because we were mates. I think we always used to sort of chat on, and I was a bit jealous actually, because I think Ads and I never really did try to be, running a place. I think I was keen, but Ads wasn't, and then so we stayed, and that's ended up why I left and went to Leo's on my own. But I remember hearing about you two doing that, thinking, oh yeah, shit, that's the sort of thing, that's a really good challenge. And I was fascinated how you got on. I mean, you did some great work. Again, I'm gonna have to chivvy us along a bit, Rich, because we want to get to some stuff. So we may have to just slightly quickly go over.
Cool.
So if you can bear with me. So you did Morrisons, the London delivery stuff, which is hilarious. If you could just give us a quick couple of lines on that. It's the visual puns on the yellow backgrounds.
Yeah, I tell you what's funny about that. We were up to our eyeballs in the agency,
right?
And I remember the Morrisons team sort of coming in and saying, "Oh, we've got a brief coming in, and we've got to do this delivery service, and they're going to be delivering bespokely in London." And I think I said, "Oh," the department was really up to their eyeballs, and I was like, "Well, actually, what if we just used their food and play around with it?" And I did a quick doodle like Tottenham from one, and everyone was like, and we were like, do we really need to try and flush this out? So I went to, I think it was Ben and Seb.
Yeah, good.
And I said, look, they're brilliant, very talented, love them.
Yeah.
So I've got this concept, and if you're up for it, what do you think? And they went, oh, we love that. I went, it's all yours. Off you
mate,
go.
You're like Jesus, just bringing things to people. No, I'm joking, but I'm pleased you said that, because it's not one of those ones you want to, ponder too much. They're just great fun. And I looked at them again today, and I found the Piccadilly
that was theirs, which is the best one. That's theirs. That's not mine.
And it runs in. I found the actual one. It's in Piccadilly Circus, and I was like, full credit to that. I mean, that's cracking.
I loved it.
Yeah, no,
and these ones they played out contextually in the location, right? They played out where they were supposed to. Yeah.
So Whitechapel and Westminster.
Were there?
But it was
any Westminster's brilliant. Were there any that didn't make it through quickly? That you did have. Well, was there an egg in there somewhere? I'm trying to think. Any bits of food which didn't make the cut, or were they all the right ones?
No, there was loads. There was more, and for me, it was like, this would be good. It has to be good, and it will only be good if there's lots of them.
Yeah.
So convincing them, it's like the B&Q campaign.
Yes,
it's brilliant. I love it, but because there's so many of them, it fills me. Not only is it the writing and the art direction, but there's lots of them.
Yeah.
there's a confidence,
and also the way they're art directed, they feel they are part of their visual puns, but you forgive them because they're really confident. Like you said, they're big. There's loads of them. You're going, oh, I wonder what the next one is. And then people start writing their own in their head. And then you're going, you've got a great campaign there. And they're sort of iconic, aren't they? 2 words, 1 word. It's really lovely stuff.
It's just simple, isn't it? I think, and that's the thing when, and also with what Ben and Seb did with them, with I think it was Patrice that photographed them, and she loved it. And it's actually quite enjoyable doing that sort of work.
Yeah.
But what was great was they were bus sides. So to your point, Dan, in Tottenham, the buses were running past with Tottenham. They were all relevant to the area.
Yeah.
So it had a bit of what I've always tried to do, or hoped what can we do within our print to make extra noise? Yeah. Is there a PR angle on it? Is there a news thing that just gets it that bit more coverage that people can engage with it and share it, or do, like you say, do their own from it, you know?
That's great.
It's a bit of fun.
I think the thing and we've talked about this before in terms of what outdoor is great at, you know, certainly for these fixed units, the screens or their 48 sheet posters or 6 sheet posters, they're in fixed locations. So any way that you can use the power of context to bring those to life, and make them more relevant to an audience who's passing them by, they're always going to resonate better with that audience, with that location. They're going to be remembered more, and people are going to, you know, that basically drives recall for Morrisons and their delivery service. So, you know, the power of context is very rich in the outdoor space, and I think this does that really well by situationally, you know, where it's being played out.
I remember, Rich, that was some ads and we learned at BBH, which was sometimes even before we put a pen to paper, going, you know, you got a loose idea, go, right, what's the press release? What's it say? What's the glue? What's the bit that's going to potentially make the Metro or the news, you know? And that is there's still not enough of that on work, I feel like. You know, I was pitching before Christmas, kept thinking, well, if we won it, what would be the bit that people would write about in the real world, not the trade press, you know? And I love that kind of, I love that way you work and your proactiveness. It's you're a man after my heart. Just one other thing on Morrisons. I don't know if you're involved in this, but they were in a purple patch with you guys at one point, a great TV spot, obviously. But then I saw a van one day. And I'm such a spod, I remembered it. It said, you know, they use the vans to do posters or headlines, and one of them said, there are no courgettes left in this van overnight, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. Were you responsible for that?
I don't. I certainly wasn't. I think that might have been Tom, actually, Tom Hudson.
Yeah, because
he was right. He was writing. Yeah, he was writing stuff around trying to keep that sort of humour and.
It's good
because it was funny because, you know, you've got this sort of retailer coming down. It was awful, coming down to Sloane Avenue. You know, they couldn't stand it coming into an ad agency in Sloane Avenue, and it wasn't. We didn't want to move there. We just didn't have much choice. But you imagine this sort of, you know, supermarket retailer that is, you know, things for £1, and, you know, talking to sort of, you know, people that, you know, really need their purse to go over a distance, and yet their advertising agency was sort of based in Sloane Avenue. It was pretty shit. So trying to show them that, you know, we understood the consumer and that tone of voice and all that was super important.
So I mean, talking about that one, you know, it's very short, sharp lines, visual puns, but something you can get really quickly. I'd love to move us on to the British Heart Foundation, because there's almost a bit of a switch around here where we're kind of using a bit more long form copy, but still using it in context to where it's being played out. So the British Heart Foundation stuff, you know, it's there to disrupt people's daily routine. So do you want to talk us through?
I mean, I love this. This was James and Andy, and the whole campaign was about sudden and unexpected, and it was Ed Morris had done a really powerful film for us, but we were going to do a big print rollout in support, and I wanted to get what it means about how someone could suddenly sort of, you know, someone could, nearest and dearest, affect you and your family and take you away in a moment, you know, and how could we do that using outdoor? To your point, when you're talking about, Dan, about having a one-to-one conversation, could we use media to literally, you know, hit you where it hurts and really make you think about it, to affect donation, or even sort of ring up a loved one or something like that? So my challenge was, what can we do if we've got this media? And we had some ideas that never made it, that were more literally, we were going to pull people out and have conversations through them. So like literally, if they got on a train, there would be a paper that talked to them. We were going to capture all of that. Then there was a poster. So it really affected people and film all that. But that didn't quite work. So what could we do with this out of home? So my thing and challenge to the team was, and I wanted copy to, I'm an art director. I can write a headline, a bit dyslexic, but I wanted copy to play a role in that. I wanted it to really bring to life the emotional, what the feeling is. And that's quite funny, isn't it, when we're all taught sort of like never more than 8 words in a headline. But if you're in high dwell time, then absolutely it could work. But then make you think about other formats like coffee cups and cards and stuff. So that's how that was born. So everything was contextual.
I think what the 3 that we've got in front of us right now, outdoor. You're right. Posters are what we're taught at art college, and what we're taught through our professional careers is short, sharp. 8 words, logo, visual. But that's because it's a poster and it should be seen in nanoseconds or caught attention in nanoseconds. However, there are parts of the outdoor media space. There are parts of people's journeys, like bus stops, like train stations and platforms, like tube card panels and cross-track projections and cross-track print sites, where people have a longer dwell time and there is an appetite to tell a much longer story. And I think these do that, and they immerse you in a story for the British Heart Foundation. They stop you in your tracks because you're already stopped physically, and I think that's a really powerful thing for creatives to get hold of. And I think that's what you've done to great quality here. Can you tell us a bit about what the copy actually says, the individual stories?
I think let's take the tube card, for example. I mean, that was born out of, the guys were brilliant with it, with going back and really going into those mediums and thinking about what the conversation or the headline might be that's relevant to that moment when you're sitting on say for the tube example. So I think, the line on that was, you're looking up here to avoid making eye contact with the person opposite. So right from the off, there's a truth that you're sitting there and it's something we do. We all look up from, we might have our headphones on or be reading, but every now and then we've all done it. We've all caught someone else's eye. So you look somewhere else to avoid eye contact. So what can you do to make you want to then read the next part? Because that's the part where we need to then go, it's every day, if you like. So the headline was the bit that resonates in that media space on the tube card. And then you go, yeah, that's true. Then you start reading the rest. Then you can be playful. And I can't remember what the full copy was, but thinking about what you're going to do on the, for dinner tonight, not knowing. But it's that moment then, your heart attack or your loved one. That was then the role that the copy can play. But because you've got the headline right, you're rewarded by the viewer that hopefully will read the rest of it. Yeah, and just a beautiful way that we composed the typography on the page, because it's just a big block of copy, but it felt branded and British Art Foundation. It wasn't in your face. And let's be honest, a lot of the stuff on the underground or wherever it is, it's all shit, isn't it? So how could we make it separate it from it? And
no,
it's like
and actually, I think you're right. There's a lot of stuff that goes on the tube card panel. I mean, they're one of the cheapest forms of media. So lots of the direct to consumer brands love them because they can tell a longer story, and people are staring at to avoid eye contact. Exactly as you say, people are staring up at the tube card panels, and a lot of them are terrible, and they become wallpaper relatively quickly. However, when you've got something that stands out, you can, and I love doing this when I'm in London. That's a nice thought. When I'm in London,
one day.
but I love looking at people to see how they interact with advertising, because it certainly helps me in my craft. And I think this is one of those that you'll know people will look at it because it looks different to the other stuff that they'd normally see there.
Yeah, that's that thing. People have been posting it lately on LinkedIn. I think Neil did it. Neil Dawson. People are only going to read your advertising if it's interesting. People are just interested in interesting things. And I think just on this, we're going to finish up on this campaign now. But I think what's clever about it is, which is brave, is there's no people, there's no hearts, there's no surgery, there's no begging bowl, there's nothing. It's a conversation. And I was at Mullen about a year ago now, blimey. But there's a lot of good British Heart Foundation work coming out, but none of it was so clear as this. This is pretty powerful. I'm going to move on to another cause now, Rich. And microloan. This is if you hadn't done SHN, this would be the one we'd spend most time on. But you've done two bloody big ones at the end, so we're going to have to go some to get these in. But we wanted to spend a bit of time on microloan before we go on to the NHS stuff.
Yeah.
You've got three great campaigns in there, not just one. And my personal favourite is actually they're all good for different reasons, but I think we should start with the first one, what kicked it all off, which is called Pennies for Life. And this was when, and Dan will obviously be giggling as I try and explain digital out of home, an interaction between a mobile and a digital screen. But I think you were one of the first people, and dare I say it's something I did with Dan actually for domestic violence, where we showed how a mobile phone can interact with a screen in a proper creative way. Do you mind just explaining briefly the idea behind Pennies for Life and how it works?
Yeah. I mean, Greg, just with this piece, because we just joined DLKW and basically Greg Delaney, he was a trustee of the charity, and he was like, well, let's get going on a brief. And I think they were already starting to do ideas, and I cannot take credit for this. It helped improve it, but the whole idea was it was by Richard and Paul, and it was they were doing it for the Ocean Outdoor campaign, and they had these thoughts about what can we do to. But the charity basically supports women in Africa. So what they do is they loan them a fund, and then they start a business, they build that business up, and then when they've got the money back, they're off to the races, and then they donate it back. So there's always a continuous circle to help improve other people's lives, which is actually a really clever idea. And it had helped really a lot of African women really start businesses and new lives for them and their children and everything. And Richard and Paul had these ideas, and we helped them push it with regards to what could you do with, because the competition, the Ocean Outdoor, was what could you do with posters and be interactive or, make a statement. And they had this thought about donation mechanisms using mobile, which was a media first, using mobile. But we were like, well, they got this idea about donating coins to women in Africa. And we was like, but how can you make that more relevant? So we helped them shape it with regards to portraits. So what happened was this went up, and over the week people stopped, and every time you were seeing this portrait of a woman being built, and then by the final coins it would say thank you from Linda or whoever it was that had been done, and you just help make your small changes made a big change in Africa. Really bloody simple, but actually something really engaging, like the old school sort of money boxes or pens that you would tip up and down and a boat would come. Do you remember P&O? So what could you do with a poster to interact with it and play with it, if you like? I mean, be part of it.
What I liked was sorry, go for it, Dan. Sorry.
I can give you a bit more on the craft of it as well, because one of the things that as I said, we worked with the guys on this, and it was a great thing to work on. The Microloan Foundation, they are small loans. They were £30 to help women in Africa set up their own businesses. They're cottage industry stuff, but your text donation was £2. And every time someone donated £2, another 200 pennies would drop and to develop this picture.
That's
right. So you would text your name to our system, and then that would trigger the next part of the animation. So there were a number of portraits, and these were real people that had set up real companies who had been financed by the Microloan Foundation. And I think that when we dug into all of those individual stories, and how you'd shot all of the pieces, and how the portraits have been brought to life using those pennies, we were just couldn't wait to be involved in it. And I think that, you know, that there are there are campaigns that come across your desk where you go, yes, don't care if it costs us money to do it, we're doing it, because that is a great message to get out to our community. It's a fantastic story, and art directionally it's perfect.
Yeah, it is a beautiful piece of work, isn't it?
Well, I think, it's quite funny speaking to you two. It's like I'm interviewing the people who did it together. But what I like about it is, sometimes you look at these ads and you go, all a gear, no idea. You know, it's like, oh, have you seen this interactive poster? And this is this thing I hate. And you go, yeah, but it's shit, mate. It's just not creative. It's not interesting. And whereas this, what happened here for me, everything came together. It's a great idea. You know, it's a good cause. It's really well art directed. I'm looking at them now, these images. They're just so sweet, and all these little pennies. And then that thing you've just described, Dan, £2. So, it's not, it is £2 worth of pennies. So you will have a substantial influence on the image. And it was it was obviously a bespoke piece, right? It was the first of its kind. I think it must have won quite a lot of awards.
I think it won gold.
It won gold. It won gold in mobile, because it was, it really was innovative. It won wherever we entered it. It did really well, and rightfully so. But as you say, something as and that's the important part. Small change, to Dan's point, that made a big difference in using real portraits.
Yeah.
When you went on the website, you could see their stories, so you really understood who you were helping and what they were doing, and actually what you'd helped them out with their business, which was really touching.
It's really good. So we're going to stay on this for a bit now. There's another one, a follow-up. This was a coin-operated digital poster, which I'm not sure if it was as good as this, to be honest. But just tell us a bit about that, Rich. Did you do something every year on it after that?
We as you know, every year the charity, they said, look, because you don't want to just do one thing. It was like, look, where we can, we'll help you out every year where we can. And also, when you start relationships, media partners love ideas. Not only do they love ideas, but they love, helping out. And if it's really engaging, to Dan's point, clever use of tech, what can we do? So every year we would have a go and see what we could do for them. So the following year, Christian and Andy, Paul and Richard weren't around, and then Christian and Andy took over as creative directors. And this was an idea by Chris and Fran, which, it isn't to this level, but there was something very beautiful and eloquent about a digital money box. So you remember like the charity boxes that you'd get for like the RNLI, and you would put the coin in and you would see it roll, and then the bit would tip over. They said, what if we did a digital one? Because our thing was, if we can get one space, and you've only got one space, you're not potentially necessarily going to get a national campaign. Can you make it engaging enough that people will donate? So to the point of, can we get 10 grand, 5 grand, whatever it is, if it's 30 quid, it'll help, but it might get shared and it might get other people. So try and be imaginative with it. Especially in those places with high footfall like Westfield. So that's how that came. And it was, what I loved about that more than anything was the craft behind it. It felt like a real live money box, and people were, putting their coins in and seeing their coin drop for real. So there was a real time. It wasn't you just put it in. If you put a 50 in, a 50 pence piece, a 50p would track down. So kids were doing it. And it is all that kind of, my kids going, can I put some money in the man's hat, please? Of course you can.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
What can we do to get kids doing that? And that's what I loved about that. It wasn't as successful, but a nice bit of thinking, I think, and an innovative use.
But again, I think, I can remember this one very well as well. I think when I think about the craft and some of the storylines, playing on the first one, this thing wasn't possible without the first one, that's for sure.
No.
From a tech perspective, as well as the concept, I think there were a number of stories that developed here, and I think that as you watched your money go through this digital money box, it helped people along the way. So your money flowed through one business, and then it was paid back and it went to someone else, and it helped them and their business. And so you go on this journey of where your money is developing, and it the bees are buzzing for the honey maker, and the fish jump into the net for the fisherwoman. And I think that just how that worked from it felt mechanical, which was the right, which is where we were art directionally. And so these little bits of animation that happened on screen were reacting in what appeared to be a physical way to a physical interaction from the coins that you put into a money box. And I think that it felt like something that you would watch, and you would watch the story develop. And
I think
it was a really nice piece.
Again, talking as the third party, the outsider, I think you guys know more about it. I think the thing is, because the first one was it looked very clean and very tech and very, it was sort of felt like it was the future, and it was. And I suppose the second one played off of that old school thing, which was unfair, like you say, Rich, because it was a really cool idea, and actually you saw more of the journey. But they're both really, we're splitting hairs here a bit, but I wanted to just close on this, on the final campaign, Rich. If this is right, by the way, Richard, I'm not sure if I've got this right. So was the third campaign, the Women for Women campaign that Lou and Amber did? Okay, yeah. Could you, because I remember judging this at an awards show, and I couldn't believe how ambitious and cool it was.
I love this idea.
What was it? So you got a space which someone locally did an ad-on, which then was for people in Africa to get the. Can you just tell me what it was again?
I remember. I think God. I remember Lou and Amber running in to see us, all excited that. I can't remember who it was. Was it JC Deco? I think. I'd go and look, because we were going out going, what can we do this year to help? We go to media partners. You got any spaces? They said, look, we can donate a load of posters to you for free. So you can do a poster campaign. And they were jumping up and down and super excited. And I was like, how many? And I can't remember how many it was, but it was a few. And we're talking about tube panels and stuff like that. But it wasn't a national campaign by any means. But I was like, well, that's good, but. Here's my challenge to you. What can you do to get a load of PR and raise money? Because if people walk past a poster, we've had people donating coins, we've had people, digitally, and we've done coin boxes. Just an awareness campaign with, say, even 50 posters, it's not going to get thousands of pounds for them, or even, and we want to set a target on what we can raise. So they were like, you've got 20 grand's worth of poster sites for free. So it's like saying to him, well, what can you do about, with regards to selling them? What could you do with it? And they went away and come back and said, well, we're going to sell them. And I was like, brilliant. Here we go. So how do you then brand that? And the brilliant thing was, and I pushed them on it to sort of shape the Women for Women part of it, so that it was like, look, business, and that's where they come back with like businesses helping businesses. Yeah. And that is really lovely in itself. So what it meant from us, from our pro bono, was, so we've got to now design X amount of posters for these small businesses that are going to go up and promote other businesses. So brilliantly, I think it sold, every single one of them sold, and it was up to Lou and Amber and the team to sort of start PRing this. Local businesses, from burger joints to massage parlours to osteopaths. And then they were literally designing every single one of their business posters.
Who did them? Because it's an incredible body of work. Was that you guys, Amber, Lou, design? That was,
what Amber and Lou are like, with regards to detail and art direction. They got so excited and worked really hard on it. And they got, I can't remember, there was about 2 or 3 designers. And this is while everything else was going off. So it was more of it was also a passion project in between everything. So late nights for them. Lou and Amber looking at designs, doing scamps of what it could be, finding illustrations. Because this, you can't sit there and bespokely design one poster, let alone, in a short space of time, let alone 50. So they had to come up with sourcing, little downloadable images and graphics, as well as design them. And then it meant 3 or 4 designers staying up late and doing it because they believed in it. Yeah. And it was a lovely idea, and they sold them all. They actually sold them all.
It's brilliant. It's another one of those examples of, was like the first one, it's a brilliant looking campaign, beautifully crafted. But then every time you dig a bit deeper, there's another little wow factor, and you're going, oh my God, this is just such a great campaign. And it's such an unusual use of outdoor. This is why I like it. That's why I wanted to feature it, because on the surface, it's one thing, then it's another thing, and then you're going, blimey, that's pretty audacious what you've done there. And Lou was always very proud of this when I
She should be. I loved it.
Yeah, no, it's great. So look, mate, fantastic. That was that was Mullen Lowe. Thank you. So what we're going to do?
Do you feel like this is a bit like This Is Your Life, Rich? Are we going to give you? Are we giving you the red book afterwards?
Yeah, you could turn up with a little billboard. But we're going to finish on St Luke's, obviously, where you became the all-conquering ECD you are at the moment, and more power to you. And we just obviously wanted to talk about how you got involved in SHN. From my point of view, if I just do a mini intro, because I obviously follow you on Instagram. And what happened, crikey, it's got to be nearly a year, coming to a year now, a bit less.
March the 21st, I think it would be.
There you go. And I remember seeing this thing thinking, oh, that's quite cool. That's quite sweet. Like, oh, look, he's put it on a little drawing with his son or something. And I'm thinking, oh, this is pretty good. And then it just goes mental. I mean, it ultimately ends up, I'm so jealous of this. You got on the 4th plinth. Fucking hell. I mean, that's the kind of thing you should just retire now, mate. It's so good. So I've obviously gone from a very small post on the Instagram to the 4th plinth, and obviously, raising huge awareness for the NHS and stuff. But could you, again, just give us a little bit of, what happened and how did this thing come about? Because it's incredible.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I mean, in all fairness, I still pinch myself that it came to me. I feel a bit...
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a bit weird. Out of everything I've ever done, it's weird. Why me? Do you know what I mean? But blimey, I'll take it.
Yeah, that's great.
I tell you what it was. It was all sparked off, and this is what I go back to St Luke's and I go back to culture, because it was all sparked off really by an end of week talk. It was the week before, so I know exactly when it was, because on the Friday we were all gearing up. We were starting to work from home just to see what was going to happen. We knew something was coming, didn't we?
Yeah.
Italy in lockdown, a nightmare. We all had friends in different parts of the world that were going, it's not good. So we were starting to do that. And so we were starting to do some quick tests. And on the Friday, we all stayed at home on the Friday.
Right. And
Neil, our CEO, was brilliant. And he read a speech out from F. Scott Fitzgerald, which was meant to have been that letter that he sent from France, south of France, during the Spanish flu 100 years ago.
Wow.
And that inspired us all. And he was like, don't worry about it. And, we're all going to be fine. We're a crew. We're stick together. And I sort of it was a bit emotional. We all went to bed. And then Saturday morning, Neil being Neil, emailed us all with a link and the reason why we were staying home. And he emailed us all an interview from Dr. Jack on LBC Radio.
Right.
And Dr. Jack, and I'll never forget it, because this was early in the morning on Saturday morning, and I listened to it, and he was pleading, and I'll send you to listen to it. He was pleading for people to stay at home.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God. And he said, I've been in a ward with in the ward, and I've seen nurses in bits and all that. And I was like, oh my God. And my mum is a retired palliative care nurse, and I just thought, oh my God, it's really scary. And I don't know what it was. I was in the kitchen where I am now, and I was like, oh, what can we do? What can we do?
Yeah.
And I was like, stay home. He wants us all to stay home now. And I remember I was like, stay home now. Stay home now. That's SSA. That's NHS logo. That's the SHN logo. And I literally did a doodle, and then I went, oh my God. And then I got my shitty sort of illustrator skills out, and I flipped the logo, and then I put the SHN hashtag, and I put it, and I emailed it to Al, the Chief Creative Officer, who was absolutely lovely, Al and Neil, and I said, have a look. I emailed it to Al, and he went, oh my God.
Yeah.
That will get shared. My God, Rich. So we emailed Neil, and Neil went, oh my God. And I was like, we had a quick chat in the morning, and we went, should we share it? Now, we said we could try and approach, the government, and obviously I worked at Mullen, and I went, they're going to be all up in super busy. I tell you what, I'll share it on my social post.
Yeah.
So, and they went, yes, do it. And if it doesn't work, we pull it down. So we put it up, and my social media went mental.
Yeah.
Right? And we were all starting to share it, and it was going mental. So then we created the rotating one, because we thought moving image is really good on social media. But between us, we were like, we have something special here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Let's do it and go with it. and if they ask us to pull it, we can pull it. We're not doing anything wrong. We'd also done a bit of homework. Like, it was stay home, save lives. This was about protecting the NHS.
Do you know what?
Stay home now.
I've got it in front of me. I've got it in front of me, Rich. So you're right. 22nd March. The logo is back to front. Stay home now in capitals. Don't send our NHS backwards. Hashtag stay home now. Hashtag stay home, save lives. I mean, and then it just the next one I've got, sorry Rich, just indulge me, right, is it's being held. You've made it and cut it out, and the Charlie's Toys are holding it. There's a little robot. Then the next one, it's been made up into a little colouring kids poster. Then it kicks off, like, you've got like Florence Nightingale, you know, graffitiing a building, an Easter egg. Oh my God. And then like the next million are just all billboards. There's a bloke who's made into a sticker. There's a guy,
they got made into car stickers.
Yeah.
People are still making them.
Yeah,
but Al had written that line, don't send our NHS backwards. And we were like, that's our message. As long as we don't drift from it and stay strong.
Okay.
But what we did is we watched how social media was engaging with it. To your point, people, it had something. It had, you know, like the clap for carers. It had something that meant something to protect their NHS.
Yeah.
So people were doing it. I was getting calls from people going, and there was a brilliant guy, Ben at BBH, that had started the National Hero Service T-shirt, and he said, "Can I use it?" And I went, "I don't own it. Do what you like." So he did his T-shirt, and it was all about this. We had other agencies making, you know, rotating things and doing bits, and people in Ireland going, "Can we do an Irish version?" And I was like, and we were all going, "We're not in charge of this. Whatever you want to do, filmmakers." And this was all about people owning it themselves.
Okay.
All we did was curate it, really, and set up a place for them to enjoy it.
So a quick one from me, because I remember, I wasn't at Mullen. I'd left by that point, but I was obviously very much in touch with Lou, and we'd run the NHS account. What I loved about this is the gloves were off. You know, the whole country's in turmoil, and I love the fact that you just went for it and didn't ring up and go, "Hi there, can we do this?" Because it would have died straight away. People have gone, no. And I think what was interesting was everyone was having a go, weren't they? Trying to do their bit. And yours was the thing that stuck more than anything else, you know, of the whole country. And, you know, to this day, I mean, I was thinking, when I was doing the prep for this, I was thinking, fucking hell, you know, you could run this tonight. It's so sad. You could run this tonight and it will be still the same message, you know. So I'm not sure if that's in your pipeline, but I mean, what a piece of work.
I mean, I'll add to it as well, because I absolutely love it. It does everything. Simple idea and perfect for out of home, because it sits on a poster, everyone gets it straight away. What I'd say is that, you know, there are concepts that are timeless. This is one of them. There are concepts that inspire people and want to reshare it, and this is one of them. And that's how you know you've got a brilliant poster, because it can sit on a poster, it can sit on social, and it can be shared everywhere. It means that you've got something that inspires people to do something. And while the concept and the artwork is great, the message, getting that message out there was, at the time, the most important thing for all of our communities. And so the fact that more people got to see that message because of a creative concept that you came up with means that you won lockdown, Rich.
Do you know what? Yeah, very good. The other thing I spotted, Rich, and I know you'll know this, was, and it was probably unfair on the guys at Mullen, because they were probably like being whipped by the government, you know, saying, say this, do that, you know, very strict. And I think you didn't have any of those shackles, obviously. So you could just go, oh, that's cool. I'm going to tell Al about that, bosh, you know. And then it's, because a lot of the government work, you know, actually at the beginning, sort of, it was, you know, all of it is very informative and, you know, quite heavy. And then you just come along with this, and you just made it look easy. It's like, oh yeah, it's a proper ad. It's got a clever idea in it. You know, it's that thing we talked about earlier, wasn't it? It made the news. It's everywhere. People are talking about it, and it's still relevant now. I mean, was there a moment, Rich, where you just thought, because at the beginning you're probably thinking, oh, this is quite good, I'll put a hashtag in front of it and share it. I mean, was there a moment where you thought, this has gone so far now? I saw a picture of nurses with it on their T-shirts. Yeah. What was there? Was there a moment where it had gone so far you thought, oh my God, I never thought this would happen?
Oh mate, I've cried. I'm not ashamed to say that.
Yeah,
I have actually bawled my eyes out on more than one occasion, because it is actually a moment in time.
Yeah.
But to be part of that, honestly, to be able to get involved and do something that people went, we need to do it. The Metropolitan Police were flashing up the Stay Home Save Lives and rotating ours. And this is only thanks to everyone else believing in it and wanting to own it themselves, like Global going, we're behind this. Orlando Bloom, we had people going, I know these people and these celebrities. They were going, well, we'll share it. Everyone needs to see this. So it meant something to everyone personal. It wasn't us owning it. It was us going, here's some tools, do what you want. It's like the rainbow, the rainbow one. That was someone took a badge, turned it upside down and wrote that. We turned that into a poster. Do you know what I mean? So we were using what was out there and going, well, help you curate that. Yeah. And then with Malcolm getting us that film and making that film at a time. But we never drifted off. It was all, when we can together we can turn this around, it had reached its peak and it was dipping. So we followed track and we just focused on the one thing, and that was about protecting nurses. When I wrote that, when I had that thought and Al wrote that, all I saw at that time, like we all did, was nurses that were doing 24-hour shifts or whatever with burn marks on their faces. Yeah. What could we do?
Yeah.
There's a fire. I'm just going to go away and draw a poster, and then I'm going to go through an army of people. By the time I've put it out there, the fire's burnt everything down. Yeah. So we started off thinking, look, if we do it and we do it like that, then we can always pull it. But it grew quickly and everyone got behind it. And I'm sure they all saw it, but it was supporting what they were doing. Yeah. It wasn't changing any message. It was like, do this and do that. And then when it come to the end, it come away. But what I loved was kids turning it into stones and making it. And that showed the power of it,
Yeah. No, it's, it's sorry, Dan, go for it.
I was just going to say, one of the, I was judging at Lions in 19, and the jury president was actually our first guest on Behind the Billboard, and we on day one of the jury service we wrote a manifesto for what we believed as a group of jurors made great out-of-home advertising, and one of those points was, does it elevate the space that it is required to play out in? And one of the other ones is, we have a responsibility for putting something up in a public space, because it, is the message right for a public audience? And both of those boxes are ticked on this campaign. The responsibility we have to people who were outside is telling them that if they don't need to be outside, then they should go home now.
Sorry, Dan, is there any, did they get in touch with you at all, the NHS or anyone from? No.
Okay. We knew people at places, and we said, and they were like, oh, we need that. And we had places like Guy's and St Thomas's take it and use it as their masthead. And we knew nurses and, people believed in it. And I saw comments where people going, oh my God, such and such might not be up for that. And then other NHS people going, yeah, but all they've done is rotate it round. Yeah. And then we saw NHS Creative went, we love this, brilliant, well done. Yeah. So it was like, we weren't drifting off, but what people didn't see was, we generally believed it was going to hopefully change, and it was. We tested it, it's researched it, and it was doing what it was meant to do. Yeah. We became our own media partner before people got behind it. We were sitting every time Boris did an announcement. I and the rest of the guys, we were sharing it on social media. So we become the team, late nights, weekends, doing it just to get it out there. That's brilliant. But then the rest of the world believed in it and took it, and it got to America, all over, but. Yeah. The thing is, we didn't drift off from the messaging. It all goes back to protecting the people that were there to protect us. Yeah. And I think that's the power of it. And the NHS itself is just never, ever could you, in my wildest dreams, find the fucking solution in the logo itself. And that's what is just bizarre. So weird.
We did a best of the year, and if you think about it, if this thing hadn't happened, this awful thing, then we would never even be having this conversation. You would never create that piece of work. And in a way, that's why it should be so lauded, because it was it was and is a horrific time for so many of us. And yet out of that, with your creative noodle, you've done something which isn't just a fabulous poster. You know, it's so graphic, it's massive, it's disruptive, it's turned the traditional logo on its head. Why? You got to stay home now. I got the message. And it's like sort of thing you want to put on a T-shirt, on a badge. You know, little pictures of dogs on Instagram with it coloured in, sitting in front of them. I've just spotted. You know, it is something, you know, like Dan was saying, it's now part of culture, you know, and I sometimes talk to John Forsyth, a good mate, lives around the corner, and he talks about how posters can cut through culture in a way that nothing else can, you know, with the speed. You know, normally a TV ad will be there, or you'll watch it on your device, or, you know, and then you might share a poster or something. You go, bang, I'm taking that and I'm sending that to someone. It'll be on the news. And I think this is why this is such a you know, a kind of visceral, brilliant thing.
Thank you.
So no, thank you. And we're hitting 1 hour and 28 minutes. I'm thinking.
Do you know we got? I forgot to say. Do you know we got contacted by the guy that designed it? 25. I think it's 25 years old, that logo.
All right.
Yeah, he's in America now.
Did he have a pop?
I should remember his name.
Did he say you got it wrong around?
He loved it. He said he emailed. He wrote a lovely letter and emailed our Jess and said who he was and what he did. He said, and I'm over the moon to see something that I created all those years ago turned into a power of force to do something good as well, beyond what it was doing. And that was a lovely thing where you just sort of go, yeah, actually, you know. So
yeah, mate,
yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and
thank you so much for your support on it.
No, it's absolutely, it's a pleasure. I think we're going to wrap it up there, Dan, aren't we?
Yeah, we are, and I think what a great campaign to end it on, because I think
thank
you know, this, especially as you know, as a country, we're everyone's standing together to try and to get back to some normality later in the year. I think you know the message is as strong now, I'm feeling, as it was when you first came.
I'm feeling quite emotional actually. I'm actually sitting. I'm sitting in the pitch. I'm in the pitch black at the top of the house. I'm looking at the Emirates football stadium, which is not something you really want to look at as a Man United fan, but I'm genuinely feeling, you know, a little bit emotional, because it's lovely to hear you talk about it with such passion, not just this but all of the work. So Rich, from me, I just want to say thanks so much, and it's been a pleasure having you on.
I'm really touched that you both invited us to come on. Thank you so much. It means a lot, so thank you, and hopefully I'll come and see you for real.
Yeah, can't wait.
We'll have a pint. Oh, wow. That was... I'm feeling a bit emotional, as I was saying. It's,
we haven't started recording yet, sorry.
Okay. Tell me when.
No, I'm just winding you up.
Oh, you fucking swat. That's it. I'm off. I'm doing an Andy Cole. I'm leaving.
God. It's so good.
It's so easy, isn't it? How old am I?
It really is, yeah.
Small child. Right, Dan. Well, I'm not going to say anything.
But I wanted to end laughing, because we kind of built right up to NHS, and I was immediately taken back to what it felt like in March. Just that, you know, that first lockdown was incredibly hard to deal with. When I remember being in the office going, well, I think we're probably going to be at home for the next 3 or 4 weeks or so as this thing blows over.
Don't go. Wow. I was having a greasy lunch with Steve Gash, egg and chips, and Louisa just says, don't go back to the office. And that was it. I never saw Lou again. I've never been back to that office. I'd left anyway, but anyway. So it was
mad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's mad, but it's lovely talking to Rich. You know, he's charming chappy, isn't he? And great insight into work.
And actually, you know, there has been so much great work that has come out during the pandemic, and you know, whether it's commercial work or the free stuff that we've just heard about, you know, just creativity happening for creativity's sake over the pandemic has been great to see. And the fact that communities are picking up on creative work that's gone out there into the social sphere, and making it their own, and there's that creative freedom. That's why we're in the business. That's what we strive for. Right?
It was very democratic, wasn't it? I mean, I think weirdly, if we had spoken to him last year, it might have been a bit too much, because we would have been literally in the eye of the storm. I mean, not saying we're out of it. Obviously, we're still back in it. But it was that moment where creative people were trying to, you know, make a difference. And he just struck gold with that But that thing, the way he told us it happening is brilliant. It's just so honest. And I love the fact that he just dropped a little note to Al Young, said, I think I've got something here, off you go.
But that it also says a lot for the culture of a company where you've got people in the hierarchy of a business that embrace that shows what a creative culture that the creative agency has, that you go, I'm fully behind you, let's do it like this, and let's be agile enough to post it in our own way.
St Lukes were very smart, weren't they? Because having worked on the NHS and knowing what it's like, probably the wrong thing would have been to do is to ring them up or speak to Mullen and ask for permission. I think it would have been, they just very gently and smartly got on with it.
I think we would have found they would have been rejected because they could have said it's going to confuse the official message we're trying to get out there. We can't endorse this. The government are asking us to do this, and I think that's a difficult place to put Mullen, and it's a difficult place to put the client because
totally.
The fact that I think it works because it had a backing of its own. You know
what? And I think the testament to it is no one stopped them, because the good thing was they didn't go and ask, which is clever in a way, and shrewd. Do a bit on social, see if we get any heat on it. Keep going, and gently they did it. And I think there must have been a meeting somewhere, NHS or Mullen, and someone had gone, have you seen this? And for them not to have blocked it or put an injunction, that was probably the moment where it flew, like you said.
And actually, like you said, I think, I remember seeing it on Rich's timeline almost, I think it was the next day after he posted it, and it had been shared a few times already by people who I also follow, and they'd already done their own thing. And I think by keeping it that kind of, that democracy, the creative democracy is like, okay, fine, I'm gonna also own it, and everyone can own it. And I think Rich, being the humble guy that he is, that he allows everyone else to own it too, meant that even if they would have been shut down, the thing at that point had a life of its own. And I think the entire creative community getting behind it really helped.
That's a really good point. Down. It's that, that Hegarty thing, I remember years ago he said to me, once you've created something, if it takes a life of its own, you can't get it back. And it's obviously now, with the internet and endless platforms, you got to get it right. And if you do get it right, man, the wind behind it, like you said, it got to America. The guy who did the original NHS logo got in touch with him. I mean, wow, what a story. I'm so pleased you came on, Rich. Thank you again, mate. Getting all emotional again now.
Thanks, Rich. I need to go and open a beer.
Right, Dan, I love you and leave you. I'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.